Pfizer were both of my doses. Within an hour, cardiovascular related symptoms. Second vaccine was December 16th of 2021. Within 48 hours, a whole onset of like severe acute neurological issues. Vision was the first. So blurred tunnel, double, tinnitus, so ringing in my ears, hot spots in my legs, urinary incontinence, immunocompromised, POTS, MCAS, immune-mediated small fiber neuropathy, GI dysmotility, acquired connective tissue disorder, pulmonary insufficiency, so issues with my lungs. And I am here today with ongoing lesions on my brain, increased cystic masses in my organs, and Anne, I have another brain cyst.
This
Who
is a
knows?
horror story. You were the picture of health.
Picture of health, and it cost me everything I built my entire life for.
Welcome to the React19 Podcast, where we bring awareness and support to the COVID-19 vaccine injured and discuss the science, research, and laws that affect all of us. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again today. I'm Ann Forty, the host of the React19 Podcast, and today my guest is founder of Can Rise 19, Michelle Worton. Michelle was a highly accomplished healthcare professional with over 20 years in dentistry and dental hygiene, including founding the first dental hygiene clinic in northern British Columbia. She served in leadership and regulatory roles with the College of Dental Hygienists of BC, led national initiatives for over a decade, provided pro bono care to underserved communities, and pursued health sciences studies as part of her ongoing commitment to service, education, and public health. In 2021, facing mounting and coercive vaccine mandates, COVID-19 mandates, in Canada, Michelle took the vaccine. After her second dose, her life was permanently altered, leaving her with severe immune and neurological injuries. Once a healthy, vibrant business owner, Michelle is now largely homebound and has lost everything she worked for. Today, Michelle shares with us her journey and how she is transforming this unbelievable tragedy into advocacy to help others injured across Canada. Michelle, thanks so much for being here today to talk about all this.
Thanks for having me, Anne.
Well, I'll tell you, every single time I do an interview, and I just shared this with you before we started, my heart is just so crushed with the weight of the carnage that I have witnessed through the lives of like yours and all the injured. And at the same time, I astounded that it has not crushed each and every one of you into despair. It's amazing. So if we could just start at the beginning of your story, what life was like and where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's lengthy, to say the least. Absolutely. I feel like you really captured what life looked like before with exactly what you had said. I've lived in British Columbia for 20 years, originally from Eastern Canada, and like you had mentioned, practiced in dentistry for over 20 years, including a business owner as well. And um, Canada was quite unique in their approach with the federal mandates for federal employees, COVID vaccine mandates. And for myself, being in the private sector, our province took a very unique approach. And that was that at the latter end of 2021, they started extending it and wanting to enforce it in the private sector. And so that's where I came in. By the end of 2021, I was observing vaccine rates that were increasing, but I was also very aware that transmission rates weren't declining. So I was I'm very scientifically minded, and I've, received all other vaccines, and so this was just sort of looking at that going, this just isn't really quite making sense to me. Not even really aware of the safety profile. At this point, it was efficacy is what I was looking at.
Okay.
I had no intentions of vaccinating. I'll put that right out there. I didn't. But I fulfilled a very unique role in that I was on the regulatory body for our college, so the regulatory body for dental hygienists in British Columbia. And our public health officer, Bonnie Henry, she started discussing with our board implementing mandates for the private sector. And that's what ultimately led me to receive my doses, sadly. So November 2021, I received my first dose within an hour. Pfizer were both of my doses. Within an hour, cardiovascular related symptoms. So tightness in my chest, shortness of breath, chest pain, generally unwell feeling. Because I was not really on board with receiving the injections, I kind of just attributed it to, being, anxious about the situation.
Right.
It subsided somewhat, but not entirely. And so what that presented with cardiovascular was very severe swings in heart rate variability and blood pressure.
Now, I'm sorry, was this after your first or second?
This is after my first.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, so cardiovascular related issues after my first. Um, I
And
won't
let's
put it
be let
fast.
just so that the audience is aware, you were perfectly healthy before
Oh
this.
yes. Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah. Prior to, I'm talking like my mom, my mom actually said to me, it was like maybe in August or something of 2021. She's like, seriously, Michelle, you need to slow down. You're making me tired because I was just so busy. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I hiked in the backcountry, 60-pound backpack. I skin skied, so backcountry tour skiing where like it's sweat equity, lifted weights, no disease, no vision issues. I mean, obviously, being a hygienist, my hand-eye coordination, tactile, acuity, visual acuity, all of which incredibly important given what I
Yeah.
did. And I actually had no changes in my vision in like close to 20 years and zero, like no change in my
So you were
prescription,
the
like
you were the picture of health.
a picture of
You
health.
would,
Yeah.
you know what? That's similar to Bree, who just picture of health, which is why,
Yeah.
she was picked for the trial, and then
Yeah.
okay, well then you have
Yeah.
your second vaccine.
Yeah. Second vaccine was December 16th of 2021. Within 48 hours, a whole onset of like severe acute neurological issues. Vision was the first. So blurred tunnel, double, tinnitus, so ringing in my ears, hot spots in my legs, urinary incontinence. So I actually was losing control of my bladder. I had no idea what was going on. Like it was just and then everything else from the initial one was exacerbated, but it was the neurological um, impacts that I just couldn't believe it, and I had no idea what was going on. I reached out to my primary care provider at the time, nurse practitioner, and it was less than a week after my second injection, and of course it was at Christmas time.
Mhm.
So I didn't see a healthcare provider until the first week of January. And so I was booked in with her when I ended up going to the clinic. I didn't see her. I saw a physician. And I mean, my chart was like, I didn't have a thick chart. It was skinny. We have a really large turnover where I live. We don't have a good retention for physicians.
Okay.
Throughout this experience, I think I'm on about primary care provider five. So that makes life interesting trying to like have continuity of care with such a complex medical history now. But the provider that I had seen asked if I was in menopause. That was his observation. From all of these like neurological issues, that was what he suggested. And I immediately was, I'm in trouble. Like this is what I couldn't even believe it.
Unreal. So did you happen to mention the vaccine?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what it was his response?
It doesn't do that.
Yeah,
That's not
that's exactly nope, it doesn't do that.
Yeah. So because of such severe onset, they did order pretty comprehensive, well, not, well, I mean, baseline blood work, and then a MRI. So they were checking for MS. That was the first investigation. And so by the end of January, I was hospitalized. Kidney stones, renal failure, or renal dysfunction, Again, never any issues with any organs. When you looked at my blood work from early January, it showed a very severe inflammatory response. So some of the inflammatory markers that we're seeing that React19 is
Right.
leaning on and what research is showing, those showed up. So they kept me overnight. They did a CT scan of my abdomen, confirmed that I had kidney stones, but also noted lesions on my liver. So cystic masses on my liver. Um, I had a brain MRI in February of 2022, and that showed lesions on my brain, and it hasn't stopped. So today, I mean, there's a whole series of so many things that have happened. So we're now February 2026. I, so by February of 2022, parietal lobe lesion, saw a neurologist for MS. She didn't feel as though the lesion location was conducive to MS and my symptoms didn't mirror MS, but she still followed me for a year. I had repeated follow-up MRIs, brain MRIs. I mean, I have countless, I think I have about 40 almost as old as I am. I just had my birthday on Saturday. I turned 47. So I was 41 when 42 when this started. And yeah, liver ultrasounds, CT scans, issues with my gallbladder. I've got cystic masses on my liver, gallbladder, pancreas, breasts, cervix, brain, lesions on my brain ongoing. By August of 2022, they identified a brain lesion or a brain cyst. I was rapidly declining, to say the least. No real care in Canada. And by November of 2022, my vision was incredibly impacted. So I was actually losing sight. Repeat brain imaging identified a brain cyst. So that was
This is
by
unreal.
8 months after my second dose of brain cyst. November of 2023, I underwent brain surgery in the United States.
In the
I,
United States.
I could not get care in Canada. Could not get care in
Is
Canada.
that because of it's socialized medicine? Is it what is it?
Well, we don't have access to, you're correct, in socialized medicine. We don't have access to any private model. Naturopathic care, yes, but in regards to the surgery itself, they considered it an incidental finding. And again, there's no way that, this would be attributed to the vaccine. Of course, with many of the conditions and symptoms that we are experiencing, many overlapping, as time goes on and research continues, we're seeing more like definitive answers of not only like a temporal relationship, but a causal relationship. But like any with science does present itself, it takes time. But what I can say is I presented with none of this before my vaccines and it hasn't stopped.
Has
So I tried my very best to get surgery in Canada. I could not find a surgeon in Canada that would do the procedure. By the time I went for surgery, I had lost sight in my right eye, cognitive deficits, word finding deficits, memory loss. And I was at the point where we can touch on MAID. I'd said to my spouse, like, I will not live like this. Like I have a living will. And if I'm incapacitated, I won't live like this. But I had researched and found a neurosurgeon in the United States in Charleston, South Carolina, that was very experienced in this type of brain cyst. And ultimately, I flew down to the States, visited with him. He looked at all my imaging from Canada, determined that the cyst itself was causing brain compression and attributing to some of my symptoms, not all, and that I would be a candidate for surgery. And we tried to get out of country funding. I couldn't get anyone to sign out of country funding. There actually are two neurosurgeons in Canada that do the procedure, but their criteria is quite outdated. And so it's very similar to, I feel like medicine in general in Canada is that we talk about evidence-based practice and most responsible physician who makes these decisions for us. We don't have that in Canada. Like they're not following most, up-to-date scientific evidence. I went to the States in November of 2023, had my surgery, and I had like this incredible like light and like this ton of like, oh my gosh, like I might actually be getting my life back. Many of my symptoms were resolved, not all. We did not realize how impacted my immune system is. And my hope was that all of these cystic masses and lesions would stop. I was like, okay, if we can take care of this, maybe this could help. What I can tell you is it has given me 2 years of my life. So I'm very grateful that we were able to go ahead with that surgery. But that took me selling my dental practice, and it was $148,000 US, and it cost me everything I built my entire life for to be here. And they say, healthcare is free in Canada. I recovered very well from the surgery, no complications. Probably around the spring of 2024, the immune conditions and neurological conditions, neuropathy, POTS, MCAS, uh, immunocompromise really started surfacing even more. So in August of 2024, in the spring of 2024, I started requesting immunology consultations in Canada. So when they did the brain surgery, they did a biopsy. They were checking to see if it was a tumor, and it was indeed a cyst, not a tumor. But it showed proliferated mast cells, so like an extraordinary amount of mast cells. And of course, now we're seeing incredible amount of research
Yeah.
on MCAS and mast cells. And so for me, I was like, what is this actually, and how is this relevant? And no one would send the referrals for me. So I went to Utah in 2024. I found a doctor, I found two physicians myself. And I went down, and within 36 hours of being in Utah, I came home with comprehensive testing and diagnoses within 36 hours
Unreal.
and a treatment plan. So I came home with IgG deficiency, subclass IgG deficiency, immunocompromised, POTS, MCAS, immune-mediated small fiber neuropathy, GI dysmotility, acquired connective tissue disorder, pulmonary insufficiency, so issues with my lungs. I have an oxygen concentrator behind me, so I use it when needed. I think that might be it. That kind of is
You
an
have all the
overarching,
vision stuff too. Is that
and the vision, yeah, and the vision. So I
ex
have like 40, about 40% peripheral vision loss. Yeah, and that's getting progressively worse. Yeah. So I came home from Utah. I had a treatment plan. It was very systematic: plasmapheresis, IVIG for
okay?
tax and
Explain for anybody who's listening, because
sure.
people share these like with lawmakers and different people. So if you can
Yeah.
explain, well, if you can explain what MCAS is, and then explain, plasmapheresis and IVIG.
Yeah. So MCAS is mast cell activation syndrome, and our mast cells are part of our immune system, and they're also responsible for allergic responses. So they're in the correct areas, and their appropriate response is to protect us. So if you eat peanuts, mast cells respond in your airway. If you get stung by a bee, they respond in your skin. They're in your GI tract. They're not supposed to be releasing chemical mediators all the time. So
Right.
most people hear about histamine response. Mast cells are far more sophisticated. They release at least five other chemical mediators, and again, they're all supposed to be here to serve us
Mhm.
well. But when they're triggered, unfortunately, they never turn off, and so that is one of the underlying conditions that I have. In
So you're
regards to
constantly in this mode of,
constantly. It's like a self-perpetuating cycle. It really is. And mast cell activation syndrome is very closely married with small fiber neuropathy and like surface nerves. So for me, if I end up with a really severe MCAS flare, which for me is only generally managed with steroids, and that's oral steroids because I don't have access to much else for care in Canada, my neuropathy flares. So my last neurology appointment, I have about 80% sensory loss in all of my limbs. So when I was in Utah, it was just my hands and feet. Now it's to my shoulders and mid thighs for sensory loss. So I don't feel pain, I don't feel cold or hot. So I've burnt myself, and I lose feeling in my feet. So I'm very clumsy. And then on top of that, my torso is starting and my face is starting to show like burning, tingling, numbness, the neuropathic symptoms. But at this point, I don't have sensory loss. And I was healthy. Like I didn't have anything wrong with me. I have to laugh about it because if not, I just cry all the time. So it's sad to have to lean on like, I don't know, obscure humor for it.
I
So when
want
it
to
came to,
talk about the psychological um, effects of all of this, how this affects. But first, I would just want to go back to the treatments that you've been given,
yeah,
IVIG. Have those helped at all? I mean, it seems like you're getting significantly worse no matter what you're using.
uh, and I've never had access to it in Canada.
Wait,
I
so they gave you a treatment and you haven't been able to use it?
I came home from Utah with a treatment from my immunologist and neurologist, neuromuscular specialist in Utah. I gave it to my family doctor here in British Columbia, and she said that's not how policy works. So I am still fighting with my provincial government to approve plasmapheresis or plasma exchange, IVIG, and rituximab in that order. And I have like my local representative is still trying to fight with me, like fight for me with the province to get access. So that was a treatment plan recommended in August of 2026.
Oh,
We're now,
August of what? Wait, not
sorry,
2026.
sorry, August of 2024.
Okay.
We're now February 2026, and I'm still fighting with my provincial government to approve that treatment.
This is just evil,
It's heavily
isn't it?
heavily gate capped, heavily gate capped. Yeah, because it's expensive. That's why.
And you
Like
have nothing.
IV,
You have nothing left. You were a successful businesswoman, healthy, serving your community, just investing in your community.
yeah,
And
and over $300,000 in medical bills, Anne,
you have
to
no
date.
disability, you have no insurance, nothing. You've used
I was
everything that you've had, you've used up.
Yeah, I was self-employed, right? Like I was an entrepreneur. I was ambitious. We're now, I have one family doctor, who a friend recommended, and we don't typically have interprovincial healthcare, but this family doctor, he lives in Alberta, so the neighboring province. A friend introduced me to him, and thankfully he has followed me this entire time. So I met him in January of 2022. He applied to, sorry, we're jumping around a little bit. He applied to the Vaccine Injury Support Program for me, so that's similar to your CICP. And he and I now are trying to apply for disability with the federal government.
So
But
is that
it's taking some time.
is that different? Okay, so we have the VICP, which was for all vaccines, and then the CICP was specifically for the COVID vaccine. Do you
Okay.
guys have two different programs like that? Did you have something specific for the COVID vaccine, or is it just the one program?
So it's just the one program. So VISP, Vaccine Injury Support Program of
Okay.
Canada. We actually didn't have a support program or compensation program until 2021. So it was introduced in 2021. And that program is nefarious at best. Our legacy media, if you want to call it that, it's funded by our government. So
Nothing. That's
censorship and like narratives and you name it, like you just can't make this stuff up. But our legacy media actually did expose this program last was it last year, last July. They did an
I
expose.
think I remember seeing something about this where like billions, millions or billions of dollars was paid out, but it was not going to the vaccine injured.
Two-thirds of the money has gone to administration. It was
Like
Oxero
it's
was a accounting firm, I believe, that it
that's
was
right. That's right. I remember.
farmed out
Yeah.
to. So right now, as of March 31st of this year, our federal government is supposed to be taking over that program. But my claim was accepted in April of 2023. I'm in the appeals process still now. I've had 4 or 5 case managers. Two of the three, so the initial decision they rejected, although two of the three medical panel experts determined that there was a temporal relationship between my injuries and my vaccine. And so my case manager at the time really encouraged me to apply for the appeal. So we applied for the appeal last October of 2025, for October of
So it's
2024.
so essentially it's been rejected all this time.
Yeah. And I have confirmed vaccine injury. And like I
And this
don't
is as
understand.
bad as the CICP here. I mean, we're like 98% of the claims here in the United States have been
We're roughly
rejected.
that percentage. So I'm in the appeals process right now. They're waiting for one document from my neurologist. And the last I heard from my case manager, my appeals case manager, is it would take them 4 to 8 months to get that document. I have that document. I'm not allowed to submit forms myself. Like as a claimant, you cannot submit your forms. And so
Oh my
and
gosh.
their correspondence is quarterly. So they changed their correspondence that they only have to communicate with us quarterly. So
This is
who
a
knows?
horror story. I mean, this is literally,
Yeah. You can't win. Like you can't there I mean obviously being like founding CanRise 19, we've worked closely with React
and
19.
we need to get to, okay, well,
Yeah,
let's segue into that. So,
sure.
so here you
And
are.
then the CVIA, so like our global like organization that React 19 is a part of and CanRise 19 is a part of. I mean, we can see this and we're witnessing this globally.
So let's back up
But
a bit into how
sure.
you, t so you're the founder of CanRise 19. So how did you, I guess, how did you first find out about React 19, and then how did that lead you to starting your own kind of React 19 in Canada as
Yeah,
CanRise 19?
for sure. I don't believe in coincidence, let me put it that way. I don't believe in coincidence. So when I found my immunologist in Utah, Bree had commented on her immunologist, and it was the same one.
Oh my
And
gosh. Well, so how
I
did you even become aware of Brie?
oh, this is
Okay,
it.
so you're this is how you're okay.
Yeah. So I found the immunologist. She happened to be working in Utah. I went down there to see her, and Bree had commented, and I just commented on Bree. I didn't even know who Bree was. So this is
Okay.
August of 2024.
So this is just something you saw on Facebook or something?
Yeah, yeah, on
Before
Facebook.
before everybody was censored every way, but okay, so you were able
Well,
to make a
no.
comment.
This is it. So what most people don't realize when it comes to Canada is we have Bill C-11, and Bill C-11 is a very it's disguised to protect Canadians from online harm. What it really is censorship. And so until I actually went down to the United States, I was trying to fill out my paperwork for my US provider, but because I didn't have a US VPN, I couldn't actually fill the paperwork out. So it was a whole rigmarole. Anyways, I finally got a VPN and I used that and I was able to fill the forms out. Well, all of a sudden, Anne, I start seeing so much information about vaccine injured. I thought I
Wow.
was I thought I was alone in Canada
Oh
because I
my
didn't
gosh.
see anything. I saw
Because of the
nothing
censorship.
because of the censorship. So I didn't know that there were people in Eastern Canada. I had assumed that there had to be. I didn't see any peer-reviewed papers. I didn't see any literature. I knew nothing about React 19. And I was in
Wow.
a I was in a challenging position because I was a healthcare provider. I owned my own practice. I had to hire people, engage in a contract to sell my company. I also was on my regulatory body. So I was not ever going to say anything about being vaccine injured until I knew for certain it was, because I
Right.
wanted it to be anything else but that. Because we know how to treat almost everything else. We don't
Right.
know how to treat vaccine injury in its entirety because our immune systems are so different,
Right.
right? And so I didn't actually say anything publicly until September of 2023 when I had to go for brain surgery. At this point, I was just like, I have nothing to lose. I have to
Right.
start saying
Right.
something. So I started kind of having a few people locally communicate, but I actually had no idea you guys even existed. So VPN, I start getting all this access to not necessarily in Canada, but the US.
Mm.
I started talking to Bree. We didn't connect, unfortunately, in Utah, but I hope one day that we are able to. And so she ended up connecting me with Julie Woods.
Julie
And so
Wood, yeah.
Julie's in Ontario. Julie ended up at the same medical facility in Utah as I did.
Wow.
And that's how Julie and I met. So this is now like the fall of 2024. I
Okay.
had no idea I wasn't alone at all. And what I couldn't find in Canada was a scientific based community. I couldn't.
Right.
And so for me, that's important. I'm a
Yeah.
woman of science.
No.
And so it was very important to have credibility and science and data. And my goal initially was to create a safe community where vaccine injured Canadians could come and share their stories, not realizing that we're a very growing population in Canada, but also figure out again from like a regulatory body perspective and like health reform and advocacy from dentistry that how do we see meaningful change in health reform? Like, how do we make this not happen again, right? Public trust is eroded. We have no trust in our immunization schedule here in Canada. How can we guarantee that there's high standards and rigor in safety, approvals for vaccinations? Because I can't even get a seat at the table in Canada to even talk about the data that's here, that's present and relevant. I've shared React 19's websites. I've shared the database that you guys have. I've sent letters to MPs, to all political party leaders. I have local government that's trying to help me get access to care. And so I couldn't see this type of community that mirrored React 19 in Canada. So I made one. I built one. That's what I did because I
Which,
didn't know how else to translate my
okay,
lived experience into how to
okay,
help.
but right there, I want the audience to appreciate your character right there. That just shows who you were before this entrepreneur, wanting to find answers, wanting to serve the community. And here you are, having lost everything, everything. And you're like, I'm going to get up and do this. That is, where does that come from? How are you doing this? Seriously. I mean, for people who, have just want to give up and can be buried by this because all over, not in the United States and Canada, all over the world, as you know, this is the reality of the vaccine injured. This is the reality. And so
It is.
how have you been able to just be like, I'm going to do this?
I'll get like emotional here because like, yeah.
It's
Um,
it's remarkable.
I have I have one answer for you, and that's Jesus.
I
Yeah.
know people don't like to hear that answer. They're like,
They
"Oh,
don't like to,
no."
they don't
But
like
they
to hear
don't get
it,
the reality of it.
but they don't get their no, they don't get the reality of it. And the truth is you don't go through an experience like this without a belief in something greater than yourself. And
Clearly.
when everything else is lost and you have nowhere else to gain hope from, I have been in dark places. And not dark like psychologically dark, but like I've seen my life flash before my eyes multiple times.
You've
Um,
lived it. You haven't, I mean, you've
I
lived it.
yeah, I had to prepare for brain surgery. I had to be strong for my children. Like this is the other part too. This isn't just me. Like my children were 8 and 12, 10 when this started. What they've had to witness. So for me to move into this space, it's God-led. And that might not land well for some people, but I wouldn't be honest if I didn't
Well,
share that.
no, but I will tell you through obviously all the people that I've interviewed that I've met, there's no other explanation. And that's pretty much what everyone will say. I mean, you listen if any of the listeners go back and listen to previous I think of Andre Cherry. I don't know if you know who he is.
I do.
Unbelievable young man, such amazing writing and rhetorical skills and the hell that each person I have interviewed has faced, and they're just like, it's my faith.
Yeah,
It's my
yeah,
faith.
it is. Well, and that was even, I mean, heading in for brain surgery, I was like, oh my gosh, like how do you decide that? Like there was a lot of variables. The success rate was very high, but it was, I
Well,
mean,
still,
the, the pineal glands in the very center of your brain. That's where the brain cyst was inside there. So they had to access the very center of my brain. And I was like, oh my goodness. But I have to do this. And I believed, I genuinely believed I was going to be okay. I had no fear going in for brain surgery. So you have to come to terms with a lot in your
right,
life.
right.
And that also included, like I said, preparing my children and what my spouse had to go through and my family. And um,
So now
And
you've,
so,
I'm sorry, I didn't want to
yeah,
interrupt.
no, that's okay. So yeah, if you ask how, um, resilience and faith and I and hope, like I mean, that's where my hope lies is in my faith and this experience when everything else has been stripped away, because there's nothing that's really that hasn't been stripped away, because my independence has vanished, my quality of life. Um, it's deceiving because I might look okay, but
Yeah, that's the
many
thing with the
of us,
vaccine injured. I mean, people can be like, "Oh, look at how great Bree looks." It's like, "Oh yeah, so she
yeah.
got on for 15 minutes or an hour and then she's, in bed for 2 days."
Yeah, that's exactly right. And most of our conditions, like we highlight, like myocarditis, and it's devastating, like the impact that this has
Right.
had on young men. But we don't really, you can't see these neurological conditions
Right.
unless they're involving like full paralysis or whatnot. But there's a incredible amount of the population that's suffering from these invisible neurological and
Exactly.
immune conditions. And for my immune system, it's just hijacked entirely. And so we still don't have an underlining understanding of what else is wrong. I have a team of a neurologist, immunologist, hematologist now, so I'm
Now,
waiting.
the doctors you're working with now, do they recognize it as vaccine injury, or are they still
I'm now being introduced to a hematologist because we're checking for a rare blood disorder that could be influencing everything systemically. I just found my neurologist in May of 2025, immunologist December 2024, and both of them actually are acknowledging what it's from,
That's finally good.
finally.
So, okay, so then you decide you're going to do this because I don't think that people, I don't think the average person can understand the level of abandonment that the
Yeah,
vaccine injured have faced. I mean, literally, we're no matter where you go, the doctors don't believe you, your government, no help, no nothing. Nobody wants to even hear about it. Just no, no. I mean, the level of that feeling of abandonment, which to me would just leave, well, has led people to such despair. They've committed suicide or MAID, which we'll talk about in a bit.
yeah,
So you and Julie start this together. Wait, how
yeah.
did you meet Julie?
Bree. So
Okay.
Bree
Oh, that's
introduced.
right. That's what you said. So
Yeah,
you
so
two.
Bree did a e-invite with Julie and I in November of 2024, and I had been trying to come up with the idea of a advocacy organization in Canada. And I talked to Brie about that. I was like, "Do you know if there's an organization like this in Canada?" She's like, "There isn't, Michelle." And I'm like, "Well, I'm running with it." I'm like, "We need this." And she's like, "Get
Got it.
after it." It's like, deal. And then she's like, "But reach out to Julie." And so Julie and I started talking, and here
And
we are.
Julie had been involved with the React 19 support group since what, 20, was it just
23.
24 or 23? Yeah.
2023. Yeah. So
Yeah.
she shared that she was the support group coordinator for React 19. I participated in, it was in the spring of 2025. I participated in a React 19 support group. So that was my experience to participate and then transition to us running our own support group. So Julie and I, CanRise 19 was initially founded in, like I said, October of 2024. We did not achieve nonprofit status until July of 2025.
Okay.
But we did start our support groups. And
Okay.
so we are now in our third round of support groups. So that just started just before Christmas, or sorry, first week of January. We had to delay it a bit. And I think the one thing that most people don't realize is we're sick. And so it's the sickest of Canadians reaching out to try to help sick Canadians, right? Like our government has failed us. And you're absolutely right, Anne. Abandonment is the best term to explain. We're casualties. When you said carnage, carnage is absolutely correct. I don't like the left and the right, but sadly there's division, and our government has played very well into creating division amongst Canadians. And between the right and the left, like one thinks we're stupid and we deserve it, and the others are just like, you know. you're an
It's not
idiot for even
happening. No.
considering it, or this doesn't happen,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just like you are
Oh,
isolated.
or as Trudeau is now famously saying, well, I never forced anyone to get a vaccine. And
Yeah,
just watching all those videos through this, when you had the truck convoy and other things, you don't get to go on a plane or sit in a restaurant or, go to work or no, I didn't force anybody.
yeah. Well,
So
and
many.
what the other thing that was very difficult for me, Anne, is I held a very public um, position. I was very involved in my community.
Mhm.
I had over 2,000 patients by the time so I medically retired. I haven't worked since February 2023. And that last day of work, I'll never forget. I was just like, holy cow. I didn't realize that was going to be my last day, but my goodness sakes, like it was just between my sight and my hands. I was just like, what is happening? Um, but before I received those injections, I was heavily exploited. I had providers telling me I should be ashamed of myself. Like I'm talking healthcare providers in our community, that I should be ashamed of myself for not being vaccinated because I tried to get a hold of my primary care provider because I was concerned and I wanted to know more about the safety and the efficacy. And it was, you're not vaccinated? Like, I can't believe that. And I was like, well, at this point in time, I'm not mandated. And I don't believe it's in my best interest. I'm not compromised. I worked and I carried my practice for 18 months through the pandemic. I never got COVID once. I got COVID in July of 2022 after I was vaccinated. And I work in people's mouths. Like I'm like one of the top like for exposure in any industry. I did
Right.
not have COVID once. So I was shamed. Then I had patients of my practice emailing me wanting my vaccine status and before they would confirm their appointments with me. They wanted my vaccine status and or the vaccine status of the hygienist because I also had employees. They wanted the vaccine status of the hygienist they were seeing before they would confirm their appointment. So
It's
not only
amazing. It's amazing what fear does. It's amazing what fear. And
yeah,
what's so sad is we all now know many, many doctors who treated thousands, tens of thousands, five, seven, ten, thousands of patients for COVID, never lost one of them using the protocols that our government denied.
yeah,
It
yeah,
never had to be this way. People
it
didn't
did.
need to die. They didn't need to get injured. It is
No.
okay.
And
Um,
so for me, I've had to come to terms with being injured. But I think what people need to realize is that when we share our stories, this isn't just about the fact that we're injured. And I had a physician, and this is like one of my physicians, because I'm waiting. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting still to get approved for that sequence of treatment. And so I'll give just a little bit of info though. So I was approved for a 3-month trial of IVIG, only 3 months. And it took literally, I can't even tell you how long it took me to get approved for that. But what happened with my experience with it is that it was administered so fast and too much, my immune system got hijacked again. So I didn't respond well to the treatment. So after 3 months, they're like, oh, it's not working. We're stopping. Well, most people that are on IVIG are on it for a very lengthy period of time. And I'm talking like the rest of your life, right?
right, that is
What they
true.
needed to do was do plasmapheresis, which is they filter your blood. They take out the proteins that aren't supposed to be there, number one. Second is IVIG. You boost your immune system. Rituximab turns your immune system off so that it's not fighting itself. So it needed to be a very systematic approach. I've never had this. I've never had an opportunity to have this care. So that's what we're fighting for now. But the problem is the individuals that are on the board that approve these immune modulatory treatments in British Columbia don't believe in vaccine injured. So we're up against like a biased decision. And so I shared this with my one of my specialists and I said, how do I prepare for this appointment? So I'm a 6 to 9 month waiting list to see this specialist for her to approve me for these treatments, whether or not I get approved. I said, I've heard from multiple individuals that they've had issues with this provider. And she said, Michelle, the best thing I can suggest is that you discuss it from a perspective of an adverse immune response, that you had a severe adverse immune response. Don't say vaccine injury, because if you say vaccine injury, providers think you just want money. We don't want money. We want healthcare. Like, so we have to be sensitive about the language that we use to not upset medical providers because they are convinced that our intentions are poor. Like, the only thing we want is healthcare. That's all we've ever wanted. Like, we're not, and so it's very challenging to have to come in. The preparation for these appointments is exhaustive, and then you have to watch your P's and Q's in your language to make sure that you don't upset the provider who's eventually going to be the one that's going to approve me for this
Wow.
care. That is the only solution we have right now. And I've been saying this since I got that treatment plan in Utah in 2024. If you don't help me, I'm going to get worse. And I am here today with ongoing lesions on my brain, increased cystic masses in my organs, and I have another brain cyst, another one in a different area that they classify as a benign tumor, and continued vision loss. And there's no end in sight for this right now. There is no end in sight. So I'm trying my best to pave the road for not only myself, but other Canadians to get approved for proper care. And instead, we've been ignored.
Is there anyone, is there anyone in Canada like there is a Ron Johnson here in the United States who, had a roundtable discussion? He's had several of them where the injured were heard, well, then completely dismissed, but he kept at this. I know Jay Bhattacharya, who's the head of the NIH now. I mean, I've spoken with him directly. He is well aware of the vaccine injured. Marty McCarran. I mean, I I believe there's a reason why it hasn't been taken off the market because, again, political reasons, but at
Yeah.
least there are voices who are willing to speak up within the government. Is there anyone at all in Canada?
No, nobody. No. So I've sat down and like that's for me, like this isn't hearsay, right? I come to these discussions. I mean, and I'm talking most discussions have been via email. Um, I've emailed every political party leader in Canada. I've emailed at least 30 MPs. So MPs are like regional
Right.
areas. So that's our member of parliament that goes to Ottawa. We've I've emailed our premier in British Columbia. I've emailed our minister of health, my MP. So I actually drafted a call to action letter, which eventually I translated into a petition. So we have a petition right now circulating in Canada. I've got 281 signatures right now, and it's demand federal action for COVID-19 injured. It's a very strategic ask for healthcare reform. So I'm talking investigations into the safety and approval process of vaccines in Canada, the nefarious nature of the vaccine injury support program, why doctors are penalized and ostracized for assisting vaccine injured, why vaccine injured can't get healthcare, how do we ensure trust with our public systems? Like these aren't convoluted asks. Like I'm genuinely wanting to sit at the table with somebody and ask these questions and give us answers because we can't repeat this again. Like if there's anything that we look at in like historically, we can't change what's happened, and I recognize that, but we know that there were errors and we need to ensure that we
Yeah,
rectify
well, but
this for
there's,
it not to happen again. And they are still pushing COVID vaccines in
yeah,
Canada.
yeah. I mean,
Sat down with my
errors,
local,
yeah,
yeah, I sat down with
fraud.
my local MP and he took that letter. The way our MPs work in Canada is they have certain ministries that they oversee. So our MP is mostly energy. So he gave my letter to the Minister of Health. So our oppositional party, he gave it to the Minister of Health because that's who would bring it to the floor in Ottawa. Um, there's been no discussion. They briefly touched on the vaccine injury support program when Global covered it last year. Outside of that, there's been crickets. Our MP, he actually re-summarized the call to action letter and he submitted it to our Minister of Health in British Columbia. He sent it to the Liberal Party's Minister of Health in Ottawa. Crickets. We've heard nothing. Nothing.
I mean,
The response we got back from the provincial government essentially was redirected to Ottawa. So there's no accountability. Like they're like, no, Ottawa makes these decisions. We just follow their guidance.
yeah, yeah,
Ottawa's who approve the vaccines. They are robustly tested. We follow their guidance. So no one's taking any responsibility, and no one will let me have a seat at the table because like that's all we're asking for.
yeah,
We
which is,
want we want science. We want someone to actually take a look. And my discussion with a lot of them have been the amount of data that we've missed and we've lost over the last 5 years of not researching us, like our community, CanRise 19 community, we are more than welcome and more than willing to participate in studies,
yes,
like
just like
research,
React19.
you name it. No one will talk to us, right? And so we can't even get the care. So trying to get access to the treatment that we are seeing is successful, not necessarily reversing conditions that many vaccine injured have, but at least stabilizing their conditions, perhaps giving some people a quality of life. The only access that we have is through our public healthcare system here in Canada, so we can't access those treatments that are recommended for me privately. So we're looking at a clinic in Seattle, um, but I mean, that cost comes with an extraordinary cost. And again, we're back to asking our province for out of country funding because clearly I'm getting worse. And I'm not alone. I know of at least three other Canadians that are waiting for someone just to apply for IVIG for them. Just
Yeah.
apply.
Well, you're exactly where, Bree and Joel were right after that roundtable where there's like, okay, we know that there's nobody coming to help us, so we've got to do it ourselves. And, those two start React 19 and, trying to get science involved. And okay, so it would be nice. I mean, React 19 from its starting days to where it is today, I mean, they've never been closer to finding help and people and awareness. I mean, I believe React19 has given out more money than our government has, except there was some death that our government gave like a bunch of money to for that death over the COVID vaccine. But besides that, the average payout was like, I don't know, $2,000 or something, and React19's given over $1 million.
Yeah, it's
Again, money
extraordinary.
comes in, any money that comes in goes right back out. Nobody's taking any money. This is literally, like you said, it's just like nobody's out here. We've got to do something. And that's what you're obviously doing. So now are you set up where people can donate to Can Rise 19?
So what we're having issues with, so CanRise 19 is a registered nonprofit, Canadian nonprofit organization. We are in the process of applying for charitable status.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how it works in the United States, but in Canada, our CRA, so our Canadian Revenue Agency, is who approves charitable status in Canada. Um, we
And you haven't been
represent
approved for that yet.
we represent a vaccine injured community.
Yeah.
So this is proving to be very difficult. So we're not giving up. The application process is so comprehensive. And so that's where Julie and I are right now. So we're getting together all the documents so that we can put forward a very strong application. And so in order for us to be able to issue tax receipts, we need to be registered as a charitable organization. So that is a huge hurdle for us right now. That we have people that are interested in donating, not nearly to the volume that React 19 has, but we do have people interested, but not unless we're a registered charity.
So
So
there's,
that's where we are right now. So as of right now for CanRise, we've got our support groups. Um, we, similar to React 19, have a safely held medical provider list. So
they actually
individuals,
just put it out online. Did you
yeah,
see
I
that?
saw that. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, my
I hope that works well. I mean, I hope
so
there's
it's
no,
such a good resource.
yeah.
And so Julie and I oversee that. So Julie and I as co-founders, these are lived experiences from injured who have had very poor experiences with some providers. And so considering how long we wait for care in Canada, we don't want injured waiting for 18 months to 2 years to see a provider that's not going to provide support. And
Right. So
so
do you
we,
know those? But then those
yeah, so we,
providers, I can see why some of them would not want to be made public because then the government goes after them.
So we're not making that list
Yeah,
public, and that likely will be something that we will never make public. But Canadians can reach out to us, and we can try to facilitate. And not that we're again providing any diagnosis, but we can coordinate, like, information so that they can source that out should they want to. And then outside of that, yeah, the charitable status organization or application is very important for us to be able to achieve, because that will help us build our medical care fund. And we get emails upon emails from Canadians asking for financial support, whether that's out of country care, whether that's
right,
prescriptions, whether that's home care products, like alternative medicine, you name it. And the hardest part for Julie and I is that
right.
we have to say no, because we don't have the funds to be able to start approving medical grants. And so we're optimistic. Again, that hope piece, I said to Julie, I'm really praying that we see some traction this year and that we can get charitable status approval, because ultimately it's about Canadians getting healthcare. And sadly, the growing amount of Canadians that are injured that are being offered MAID is growing. And
Well, that's another
that's not
thing.
healthcare.
And
Yeah.
there's two things there. One is there's probably a whole lot of people who are vaccine injured that haven't even put their symptoms together. They're having kidney problems, they're having heart problems, they're having eye issues, and they haven't even connected it to the
Yeah.
vaccine. So there's that whole other issue. And then, yeah, let's talk about the whole MAID thing. There are several prominent, I follow Kayla
Yeah.
Pollock, whose
That's
story
right.
is horrific. And
Yeah.
then Carrie, oh, I don't remember Carrie's last name.
Sakamoto.
Okay. And then obviously Sean Hartman, whose son
Yeah.
died
That's right.
after his Pfizer vaccine. And so, but I do know Carrie, the Canadian response to her was here's MAID, which is MAID is medically assisted suicide, basically.
Yeah.
What is it?
Dying. Yeah.
Medically,
Medically assisted.
I
I'm
forget
gonna,
what the acronym means.
yeah.
Medically, what, assisted induced
Medical
death or
assistance in
something?
dying. Medical
Sorry?
assistance in dying is what it
Medical
is.
assistance in dying. Okay. And
Yeah.
that
So
was the Canadians government's response to Kayla. Well, we can't
that's
help
right.
you, but here you can, but we
Yeah.
can kill you.
Yeah. There was a gentleman in Ontario that he was vaccine injured, that and it's a National Post publication. Like, you can find it online. Discussed that he was vaccine injured, and he also had depression, I believe. That gentleman chose MAID. I've had lots of conversations with our vaccine injured community that they're not sure how much longer they can go on. And that's what the
And
option
you
is for
understand,
health.
you know what? I hate to say it, but you understand it. But
I do
that's
understand it.
that's horrible. That's
I
horrible that
do.
people are in such despair because they have been gaslit. They cannot find help from anybody else, and they think that their only option is to die.
Is to die. Yeah. They don't even get access to even try the treatment. And it's funny that for me, when I came back from Utah, I had sat down with an internal medicine doctor, um, and talked to her about rituximab while I was trying to get approval for everything else. And she told me that it was too aggressive of treatment. So, say me, for example, they wouldn't provide me with access to rituximab, but I guarantee you they'd approve me for MAID. I can guarantee you. How sad is that? Right? And on top of that, well, I'll backtrack just quickly. So when we were trying to apply for out-of-country funding for brain surgery, we almost had a doctor sign my out-of-country form. So you needed a specialist who's considered the most responsible physician. We came back. I gave him all my consultation records from my neurosurgeon in the States, and he made these decisions based on imaging from Canada. So it was obvious that I had brain compression, and still Canada was like, no, we're not doing anything. This specialist would not sign my out of country form because he said he would lose credibility with his colleagues. So my spouse and I, partner and I, sat in front of him with my life in shambles, and that's why he would not sign my
And
out
you
of
know
country.
what? That's exactly what happened all throughout COVID. Nobody, no doctors, nurse, nobody would say anything because they wanted to keep their job. Just,
That's right.
I'm just going to do what I'm told. And,
Yeah.
whatever that is, I'm just going to do what I'm told. And because of that, so many people suffered. So
So
many
many
people
people.
suffered.
So many people have died. So many people are suffering. There's numerous Canadian doctors that again have been completely ostracized. And Dr. Charles Hoff was one here in British Columbia, and he was simply reporting what he was witnessing
Oh,
in his
I remember
practice.
this story. Yeah,
Yeah, like the
he was just reporting on it.
yeah, and the college, the regulatory body in British Columbia, went after him, and thankfully they dropped all charges. But that's what was happening with physicians that were abiding by their Hippocratic oath,
Well,
like
here
to do
in
no harm. Like that's what like to do no harm, and here we are today with so many physicians and I've had conversations because I like I said, being in healthcare for as long as I was and immersed in the community. Um, it's okay to say you don't know. And I've talked to nurses that were part of the inoculation centers, and they're heartbroken.
Well,
Like,
that's like Deb Conrad here in the United States. She has a law firm, very well-respected PA, just pillar of community. And then she starts doing her job saying, oh, we need to document these injuries. And the hospital goes after her and they fire her. I mean, she's got a lawsuit now based on fraud. And I know that they have gone into discovery. So I know that case is moving forward. So that's a positive. But same thing, you report on this or
yeah,
hospitals did not want to be associated with anything negative. And of
they
course,
didn't. Yeah, they didn't. So
so
here we
where do
are
you see
today.
this going? Where do you where do you see this going? I guess you can give me two stories where you think it's going and where you hope it's going, but however you want to answer that question.
Yeah. Um, in reality, I can see, providing that we get approval as a charitable status, CanRise 19 leading the way for Canadians to outsource care internationally, similar to React 19. Unless we can get a seat at the table to discuss, the lived experiences and the most recent data with any kind of political leader that's willing to engage in the conversation. Um, I'm not sure if we're going to see traction with the government. And as in regards to VISP, there is some discussion that they're looking at perhaps extending the timeline in which you can apply. So it was 2 years from the time of your injury, and then it was three. And so now we have many Canadians that didn't even know that the vaccine injury support program existed and their timeline had lapsed and they could never apply.
That's same here in the US. In the US, it's only 1 year.
Yeah, and I mean, like you had, we'll circle back to what you had said, is that many people aren't even aware, they're not
Right.
connecting the dots, right? And until it's too late. So I think we just keep pushing forward for Julie and I. The organization is growing. We've got a growing group of volunteers, and Julie is busy with the support groups and coordinating that, and I'm working on the lobbying side and the advocacy piece, and really just I invite any leader to sit and just chat with me. I do. Like somebody has to raise our voices in Ottawa. And this isn't just for what's happening now, it's to consider what can happen
In the
like long
future.
term. And when we look at the crisis, like the healthcare crisis in Canada, secondstreet.org, they actually published an article maybe like 2 months ago, and it talked about how many Canadians died on wait lists, so either waiting for surgery or diagnostics. So this is a systemic issue. Like this is so much larger. This being vaccine injured has thrown me into this arena that I had no idea would ever have
Yeah,
existed.
yeah.
And it's so much bigger than, I mean, vaccine injury in and of itself is devastating, but when we look at like the systematic failures that we have in Canadian healthcare, we're going to continue to see a burdened healthcare system because the vaccine injured, whether vaccine injured, whether you like it or not, we're encompassing a large percentage of that burden. We really are,
Yeah.
and because we need healthcare. But they discussed from April of 2018, I believe it was, there was like about 120,000 Canadians, and you'll have to look at the article to just not quote me on it, but roughly that have died waiting on wait lists. In the last recorded year from March of 2024 till April of 25, over a quarter of those people that died in that year, Anne. So it's escalating very quickly. And their
People
solution.
People
is
need to
MAID.
know. People
And so
know.
between like the crisis that we have with our healthcare system, MAID in and of itself, the vaccine injury support program, and just how it's failed Canadians. It's not even failing, and these are from individuals that have even confirmed vaccine injuries. So you imagine people that are injured that don't have confirmation, and that's, I have confirmed vaccine injury because I went out of country, which is typically what it is for most people, unless there's a few cases which are illegal in lawsuits. And we are sad that they're in those situations, but all of us in our community are rooting them on. Kayla, Dan, um, Carrie, like we are really rooting them on that they can set precedent. And it's not about money, it's about
Yeah,
accountability.
right.
And Health Canada said that they put forward a safe and effective product. They didn't.
No.
They didn't. And it's not safe and effective for everyone, right? Like if bodily autonomy and informed consent was recognized and you chose because you felt it was in your best interest
Right.
to receive that injection, you got to choose.
And
That
and
wasn't,
and part of your informed consent should have been that, by the way, if anything does happen to you, you're going to be completely on your own. So,
absolutely, absolutely. And that was so murky. That was so murky. It was just, and I'm witness to that. And so for me, yeah, it's you wouldn't believe it unless you've lived
live
it.
through
And
it. And I think
you
that's
wouldn't
just it.
believe it.
People just can't wrap their
No.
minds around that. Oh, that would never really happen.
And I had belief in our system. I mean, I worked in like within the medical system for over, 2 decades. Like I believed in a system that has failed me. And so it isn't so much as being injured, it's what's happened after. And I will relentlessly pursue justice for injured Canadians in one way or another. And if
So,
what we can do right now is provide support groups and access to resources, that's our goal and that's what we're fulfilling. But ultimately, we really are hopeful that we can build this medical care fund so Canadians can receive the healthcare that they deserve.
so I was going to ask you, what would you like your legacy to be? And perhaps you've just answered that. Um,
Yes, yes, indeed. My children are funny. So they're now almost 15 and 12. And just the other day we were talking about like leadership and politics, and my daughter was just like, Mom, when are you going to step into that? I was like, oh no, sweetheart. I'm going to continue in this advocacy role and lobbying role. Um, because you can work in I don't know, there's flexibility in this situation. I feel like it's challenging. I can see once you get into politics, but yeah, certainly just seeing meaningful change and hoping that Canadians can see some hope in Canada Rise.
okay, and so how do people, where can they find you?
Yeah, of course,
You
yes.
can rise.
So you can find them through myself. So Michelle Worton, I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well as Facebook. Our website is up. That's been up for quite some time, canrise19.com. Canrise also has Instagram and Facebook. Our X account, Anne, was shut down within 24 hours.
Is
And
it still shut down?
yeah, yeah, so X is shut down. I can't get access to it. And that was within
That is
24
so
hours.
strange because it was really Elon Musk buying Twitter that really opened the doors up for most people because we were shut down everywhere else. And once he bought Twitter, now X, that's when all of a sudden you had spaces on vaccine injured and data and doctors and everything just exploded. So that is very bizarre to me.
Yeah, so between our website,
Does
and
that
there's
have
lots
anything to do with Canada?
of certainly, well, Canada's talking about banning X.
Ugh,
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
the censorship aspect is so something important for the world to know. We can't share Canadian news in Canada on social media.
You
We can't
can't.
share, we cannot share Canadian news. So if we try to share a link to Canadian news on Facebook, it's blocked. Yeah, so we can't even share Canadian news. And that was under that bill, C11, I think it was that I
You
had
know,
referenced
that
beforehand.
seems bizarre. So you can share American news, but you
We
can't.
can't we can't share any links to any news, but the fact that we're in Canada and we can't even share Canadian news in Canada on social media platforms. So
You can't share news from anywhere?
no, no.
What?
We can take pictures of the news article and share the photos, but to try to share the link to be able to directly access news articles, we actually cannot share in Canada. It's shut down almost immediately. And if you even look
And
through like
Canadians voted for this? Was
they
this
voted. Yes, and they
they
voted again. That was the most challenging part of our most
wait,
recent election.
well, I should say they voted. I'm assuming that particular law was not voted on, but just the people in government voted for that to come in.
That's right. Yeah.
That is incredible. Okay, well, I'm going to put in the show notes. People can, check the show notes. I'll put a link to all this. The other item I'd like to make people aware of, well, two, is Dean Rainey's film, Why Can't We Talk About It? I interviewed
Yes.
him last year. Excellent film, um, showing what's going on in Canada with the vaccine injured. I don't know what the response has been up in Canada with that, if he can even get it out. If people, I mean, it seemed like he was having a difficult time with even allowing places to let him show it.
That's
They're like,
same
oh
as
no,
us.
that's too controversial.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to get it aired here at one of the independent theaters and I never got a response. So it was actually a local media company that they were willing to have me host there. So I hosted Follow the Silenced and Can't We Talk About It? And then, of course, his story's coming out here this week, actually. And so that's Dean's latest documentary with
Oh, it
Dan.
is. Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
sharing Sean Hartman's story. So that will be coming out. But the majority of the facility or the locations that will host these documentaries are churches, and that's who will host them. Like we
Mm.
can't find many. We've had like a few of our community members, they wanted to host Follow the Silenced and Why Can't We Talk About It in Saskatchewan? And they were met with like the controversy that surrounds the nature of the topic and that they
They
actually
won't.
wouldn't them
Yeah, well,
to air.
for anybody who doesn't know, Follow the Silenced is the story of what's happened here in the United States. Well, really all over, but particularly with Brie and really the founding of React 19. And so I'll put that in the show notes. I can put in, people can follow you and Julie, and I'll put in Kayla and Carrie and Dan
Yeah.
Hartman.
Yeah.
We can't stop. Yeah, as I think that's Carrie's line, can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah.
Um, we just have to continue to get the word out, the United States, Canada, all around the world. And I just so appreciate, I so appreciate doesn't convey what's in the heart. When I want to say, hey, I just really appreciate your efforts, Michelle. Well, I just thank you. I thank you for not giving up. I thank you for the God in your life. And and we can all pray that he continues to guide and direct you to help the souls all around you and that they might experience healing again. So thank you. Everybody go check out the show notes. If somebody wants to write a check to you but doesn't care if it's, they get a tax deduction, can they do that?
Absolutely, they can. Yeah. So if you go to our website, there's a donate now button that's there as well. So if they want to donate, they can.
Okay.
Our website it's a bit tricky because the retention of processing fees is we don't get the full donation, but any donation is better than no donation.
Okay.
E-transfers are also welcomed. Info at CanRise19, that's a possibility. And if checks are something that want to be issued, then absolutely, they certainly can. They can contact me directly.
Okay.
And outside of that, the support that we've had from React 19 can't even explain like how incredible it's been. Yeah, certainly. We wouldn't be here, honestly. Like Julie and I have taken the reins and run with it. But the support that we've received through React 19 has absolutely been incredible. Both Bree and Joel have been mentors
Yeah,
in a
for all of
time and
us.
place where we can't even imagine that we would be looking for mentors in this situation. But yeah, I could never not mention the impact that React 19 has had for Julie and myself and the support that we've received from you guys as well. Yeah.
Okay, everybody, go and help. Go and help anywhere you can, whether, you're making a post, you're contacting a government official, whether you can make a donation. Remember, everybody here is just a helping hand. We're just all helping. Nobody's getting any, financial gain, anything. People just want to help people survive. So, Michelle, thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne. I appreciate it. God bless you.
You too.